Awesome. Thank you so much, Christina. All right. Well, hey, thank you everyone for joining. Really appreciate your time today. I've been preparing my slides. I've been thinking about them for about a week now because we're in kind of a weird situation with COVID-19. And as many of you who are either graduating or about to graduate and looking for internships, looking for new opportunities, it just got that much harder for you to do that just because companies are they're laying off. The economy is taking somewhat of a hit. It's not just affecting consumer brands, but also B2B enterprise as well. So I have some slides I want to talk to you about, and I'm hoping that it'll generate some questions and really cause you to think about how you position yourself in the marketplace as it relates to being a new student and preparing yourself for your career in marketing or PR. So here we go. I assume everyone can see my slides. I'll go ahead and get started. So I decided to call this How to Build Your Brand and Stand Out from the Competition because in essence, all of you are competing with each other. Even if you go to the same school and you're good friends and you grew up together, you are still competing for opportunities in the marketplace. And not just right now. In your career, as you move from agencies to brands to other companies, you're going to continually have to sell yourself to new opportunities and to get your foot in the door and start at new companies. And so this is not just applicable to everyone on the call. It really is meant for, or students rather, it's really meant for everyone who is thinking about building their own brand in the marketplace. So just a real quick about me. I'm not going to spend too much time. I've been teaching at San Jose State for about 10 years now, and it's MCOM 170. And so if you haven't taken it, I highly recommend you take it. It's a great class. And I'm actually highlighting a few of my students from last semester in terms of what they've done to build their brand. And you'll see those in the coming slides. But I've written a couple books about marketing, social media. I've done a TED Talk. I work at Zeno Group, which is a integrated marketing agency. We are won several awards over the last several years. And I do analytics and digital. And so while I support a lot of my PR colleagues and clients, most of the work that I do encompasses looking at data and extracting data to find an insight to then create content with. So that's what I do. And that's what I try to teach my students is not just equipping them to build their brand, but also giving them the tools necessary so that when they do get in that interview or they do start that position, they can start thinking about things that they wouldn't normally think about in terms of analytics, social media, and just all the platforms that are out there. And so today we're talking about how you can stand out. And I found this article, and it was written in ink a couple years ago. And I don't want to trash it because I know the author, Lolly, she's a good friend of mine. But I thought to myself, like, what should I do? Should I talk about these characteristics that I think we all know we should be, like being disciplined and being conscious and being confident? Those are all super important. But as I teach my class, I don't like to provide theory. I don't like to teach what I think is right, or I'm not here to give you therapy. I'm really trying to show you and give you applicable things to do to improve yourself and build your brand online. Okay, so I'm not going to get into any of this, but just Google the title and you'll find it if you want to read it. Now, how many of you, and you don't have to answer this question, but how many of you have heard the phrase, it's not what you know, it's who you know, right? I've heard that throughout my entire career. In fact, here's some books that I found, and I read the middle book many years ago. It was the foreword was written by Ken Blanchard, who is he's kind of an author. He's done a lot of books around self-help. And these are all good books, right? And it's true to an extent. It's not always what you know, it's who you know. And when I talk to my class, I like to flip that upside down and say, actually, it's not who you know, it's who knows you. Because I know a lot of people, right? I know celebrities, I know sports figures, I know politicians, but none of them know who I am. And so as you think about building your brand, you need to understand that you have to put yourself out there. You have to have a perspective on topics and build your brand that way, even if you only have a year or less experience, right? It doesn't mean that you don't have a point of view. You have to build your brand, and it has to be around something that you're passionate about, whether it's marketing, communications, writing, journalism. These are all things that are going to be important to you as you get into your careers. So just remember that in the back of your mind, right? It's not always who you know, it's who knows you. And at the end of the day, Google owns your credibility. Now, I got a funny story for you real quick. Years ago, when the internet first came around, a long time ago, and there was a gentleman in Dallas, and he had the same exact name as I did, or he has the same exact name as I do, first, last, and middle name. And back in the day, I would Google myself just to see if there was anything interesting, and I would always find his profile. He's a lawyer in Dallas. I found his profile. I found some papers that he's written. I found some of the stuff that he put out in law school, and I told myself, there must be other people with my same last name. I'm going to create content. I want to build and own the real estate in Google so that when someone does Google me, I come up, either my LinkedIn profile, my blog, my social media accounts. All of those things are important because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who you say you are. It matters what Google says you are, because you can say all these great things about yourself in videos, on social media, on TikTok, on Snapchat, etc. But at the end of the day, when people are looking for you and they don't find that content, well, whatever Google shows up in the search results is who you are. So just remember that as we talk about building what I call long form content, or the written word. That is very important as you continue to emphasize storytelling in your careers. Long form is very important. So I'm going to talk about 5 quick points, and I have examples of several. The first one is establishing a point of view. Now, several students come to me and say, you know what? I don't have one. I'm just about ready to graduate. I don't know how I feel about marketing or advertising. And it really doesn't matter, to be honest, because your point of view is going to change anyway. My point of view 20 years ago is not the same as it is today. And so if you have a point of view about right now, whether it's a campaign in the marketplace, whether it's a TV show on Netflix, or it's anything that's important to you. Oh, hold on, let me just admit these people. Admit, there you go. Whatever that perspective is, you have to back it. You have to provide perspective on that because you have to stand for something. I interview people all the time. And the first thing I do when I get their resume is I Google them and I look at their LinkedIn profile. Do they blog? Are they on Twitter? Do they have a perspective? Even if it's not right, the fact that having a perspective and being brave enough to talk about it it says something about your character. Okay, so once you establish your point of view, you can figure out different ways to talk about it. Now, I have a screenshot here of Christina who introduced this call. Now, part of my class at San Jose State is about building the student's brand. So I assign homework around talking about things that are important. Now, I assign topics and they write about them on LinkedIn and other places. And you can see here, Christina wrote, that we must be effective communicators on social in order to be strategic and be competitive. And that's an example of having a point of view, right? So she's writing down, she's making a blanket statement and she's backing it up with her takeaways. Okay, I'm not going to read the whole thing because I only took a screenshot of a little bit of it. Now, on the right, we have another person who's talking about, in fact, she recorded a TikTok video. And she's saying the number one most crucial advice I can give influencers is to always be humble and kind. Okay. Whether or not you agree with it doesn't matter. Whether or not you think it's lame or you want to know more, it doesn't matter. She is providing a perspective on a channel and she's generating a lot of engagement. Look at the number of likes she has. There's 27 comments. She has, over 2,000 views. So she's building a dialogue with people around a point of view that she has that she thinks is important. Okay. That's the first step, is having a point of view. The second step is repetition. Now, how many of you know that it takes 7 to 10 days to build a habit or break a habit? You have to continue to do something in order to make it a routine. And that certainly changes for some people. Some people it takes 21 days, other people it takes a year. Some people, they can start right away. The point is that repetition is critical in terms of talking about and building thought leadership for you. And by the way, this is the same concept for marketing, right? If you think about Nike and, I can't even think of their tagline. Hello, just do it. So you see that everywhere, right? You see it on billboards, you see it on videos, you see it on, if you're listening to ads on Pandora. And that is repetition. They have ingrained just do it across a multitude of channels. And when we think about Nike, we think about this ability to overcome the odds, being able to just, suck it up and do what you want to do and own it. And so that's what I mean by repetition. And here's an example of Jennifer, and she's actually on this call. She was a grad student of mine. And I'm very proud at how she's continues to write and be repetitive with her thoughts and her thinking around marketing and social media. And you can see here, there's 3 weeks ago, you see she posted, 2 weeks ago, you see she posted 4 days ago. Now class has been over for a week and a half. So she's continuing to build her own thought leadership on LinkedIn. And I talk to her often. We go back and forth on LinkedIn and Twitter. And, she started a Twitter account. She's getting engagement there. So she's really putting the effort into ensuring that her point of view is distributed in the marketplace so that when a hiring manager or a colleague or someone with an opportunity sees it, they already see that she's participating in the conversation and she has perspective. And she's really smart as well. So she has some thoughts that make sense from a marketing perspective. Sorry about that, my Ring doorbell. But she has perspective, and she's putting herself out there. She's risking herself and criticism by putting her information out there, not her information, but her perspectives and her point of view out for people to comment on. The third one is don't forget the written word. Now, what do I mean by that? Now, when I talk about in class the shelf life of content, what I mean is how long does a piece of content live on the internet? Now, if you think about a snap, it's seconds. If you think about a tweet, it's a few minutes. If you think about an Instagram story, it's 24 hours. If you think about an Instagram post, it's probably a few days. After that initial engagement, that content is nowhere to be found. Now, unless, of course, somebody goes to your feed and finds the picture and looks at it and comments on it. But in general, people don't go to other people's feeds, right? They scroll through their own feed and they see what people are posting and they engage with it that way. So the shelf life of a social media content is really low. The shelf life of long form content, blogs, newsletters, I hate to say press releases, not that any of you would write a press release for yourself, but that is an example of a long form content. And the reason why is Google will index that content, and eventually over time, it could take 6 weeks, it could take 6 months, but eventually you will get traffic in Google from that piece of long form content because Google, it's indexed. Now, there's some technical reasons why Google doesn't index like Facebook posts. There's some business reasons why they just don't, they're completely separate. And so if you think about building, and that's why Wikipedia is kind of everywhere, right? Everything you search for in Google, Wikipedia is like the top 5, right? Because they've instituted long form content into defining topics, defining terms, defining people and events. And so that's why, Wikipedia gets so much organic web traffic. Now, let me give you a quick example here. If you look at the slide. Now, what we're looking at is TikTok. Okay. Now, over the last 12 months, there's been 1.5 million articles written about TikTok. Now, notice the trend. From May 2019, there was maybe 1,000 or 2. Up to last month, we're looking at 240,000 articles. Now, the reason why I say that is because people are still consuming long form content. How many of you read articles on a CNN or Mashable or other platforms? Okay. That long form content gives you the ability, gives authors and journalists the ability to tell a much larger, much comprehensive story. Now, the other data point I have here is 2.7 million monthly searches. And what this means is that in Google, every month, there are 2.7 million people, well, not necessarily people, but 2.7 million searches in Google for the term TikTok. Okay. So just think about that. Let it, contextualize that for a minute, because if you think about you and the content that you're passionate about and the topics that you care about, and if you were to write content over time, as I said, you are going to get traffic from people who are interested in learning about the topic you are writing about. Okay. So moving on to Snapchat, 1.8 million searches per month. And over the last 12 months, 99,000 articles. Now, obviously it's not a lot, right? And partly because Snapchat's been around a long time and it doesn't have that buzz factor, whereas TikTok's just exploding. Okay, so this is more than just posting on TikTok. That's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about writing something and having a point of view on why TikTok is good for marketers. I mean, that would be a great post for anybody interested in technology or healthcare. Like, does it make sense for marketers in healthcare to use TikTok? And if so, how? Or does it make sense for, architects or real estate agents to use Snapchat? And if so, how? Right. So that's the type of perspective that I have. Anybody can record a video and lip sync and do all these fun dances, right? That's easy. The hard part is having a point of view about it and sharing it across the web. The fourth point here is optimizing your digital profile. Now, I have a couple of examples here, and I covered their names and their photos. And if you know any of these people, I'm sorry. There's a few students from Santa Clara University, San Diego State. Now, think about your LinkedIn profile, okay? I'm going to talk about a few of the points here. And by the way, these aren't terrible, right? But they're not optimized. If we look at the person on the left, it's a decent profile. She's got a nice headline. It says marketing student at Santa Clara University, right? That's very descriptive. That is very, she's using keywords like marketing in her headline. And she's also written a nice little summary about what she does at Santa Clara University. Okay, not a terrible profile. On the right, you have another person who is, her headline says marketing student at San Diego State, future doctor of chiropractic. Okay, to me, that's pretty awesome, right? She's telling the world what she is today and then what she wants to be tomorrow. Now, notice in her about section, it just, to me, it's, there's a line break. It doesn't look right to me. Again, there's a lot of improvement that could be made here. So don't do this. Now, there are photos here. I just covered them up, but there are no background images, right? So I highly recommend that you differentiate yourself and put some type of background image, even if it's a solid color or polka dots, whatever it is. Anything that defines who you are or what you care about is worthy to be on this background photo of LinkedIn. Now, again, I'm highlighting Jennifer here. Now I'm going to talk about a couple of things that she does really well. And, she's a grad student. She's graduating soon next year. And, we've had conversations about her growth and her future and wanting to get into digital marketing. And so you can see here her background image. It's customized. And by the way, there's platforms like Canva where you can go and customize your own background images like this. She has a pretty unique, headline, which is graduate student at San Jose State and then digital marketing. So that tells me that she's interested and or knows a lot about digital marketing. If you look down a little bit further, you can see her about section. It's very well written. Short sentences, bullet points. She's telling future colleagues, she's telling future hiring managers, recruiters, what she specializes in and what she cares about. Now, if you scroll more down and you look on the right here, you see what she's featured. Now, in my class, we talk about, and I have them, optimize their LinkedIn profile. I have them produce and create content on the weekly. And you can, as an owner of your own profile, you can highlight whatever it is you want to highlight on your LinkedIn profile and feature it for other people to look at. So if you and I aren't connected, let's connect on LinkedIn, and you can see I have a featured section and there are videos that I've been recording since the beginning of the year. So you can highlight whatever you want. Now, more importantly, look below that where it says activity, okay? Notice, and what this is telling me as somebody who goes to her profile is she's very active, right? You can see that she's commenting on other people's posts. Some of them are students. Some of them are colleagues and friends. And she's also publishing content, okay? So you can see that she's, I always tell students every semester, look, a good habit to build is every morning or every afternoon or every evening, spend 15 minutes going into LinkedIn, scrolling your feed, liking, commenting, sharing, and do that for 20 minutes. You may not need to share everything because then it won't look good, but engage with people and their content. And I guarantee you the next morning, you're going to come back and you're going to see people engaging back with you. Okay. It's this concept that I heard about many years ago called reciprocal altruism. And it's this idea where you give without any expectation of receiving anything in return. So when you give to the community and you give praise and you give comments and you give feedback, that'll come back 100-fold. Okay. You also have to produce content, and that's not easy to do, right? It takes time. It's not just content, or what you say, it's the style, right? That drives engagement, which you can see her style is unique. And that's what I teach the class. So do more of this, be active. And I guarantee you will see more engagement. You will see more people wanting to connect with you. You might even get more job offers. Okay. If you do this for 1 year, I guarantee you, if you're a sophomore or junior now, or senior graduating next year, do this until you graduate. And I guarantee you will have an opportunity by the time you graduate, right? Despite kind of where we are with COVID-19, there is still a market for people like you and I, right? There's a lot of layoffs in other industries, but marketing and PR, digital, everything is, by the way, all these companies that have events like CES or South by Southwest, they're all moving their experiences online. So that's going to require more knowledge, more skills, more people to understand how to activate groups of influencers or audiences using digital technologies. So your specialty, your degree in marketing, communications, journalism, digital PR marketing, that is in a high demand right now. Okay. If you can do data and analytics, that's even better, because that is, CMOs are now asking their staff, what is the ROI of my investment? Why should I continue to pay this agency $20,000 a year? And how is that driving impact for my business? Okay. If you can answer that question, I guarantee you're going to go very far in your career. Do the unexpected. Okay. And this is different for everybody, right? If nothing in life is handed to you on a silver platter, right? You have to go out and sometimes I over dramatize this statement, but I do it to make a point. If you want an opportunity, you have to do everything in your power to go get it. It's a life or death situation in a way, because if you're not doing it, I guarantee you other people are. And so when I say do the unexpected, it means, again, it could mean anything different than what you normally do today. Like, nobody reads cover letters anymore. Okay. Now, at least not in my industry. Nobody reads resumes that are printed out on a paper. Okay. Now, if you're going to, a job fair, it's wise to have one. I had a student last semester say, hey, there's a job fair next week at San Jose State. What do I do? She's like, I printed out a bunch of copies of my resume. I said, well, okay, why don't you do this? Is there a certain company that you want to work for? She said, yeah, this agency is going to be there, and I really want to work for them. I said, okay, study their company, record a 60-second video on why you want to work for their company, put it on a flash drive, drop your resume and your cover letter on this flash drive, and bring it to the hiring manager, whoever's there, and say, hey, I really want to work for your company. I've recorded this video for you. Boom, there you go. Now, that's unexpected. Like, I've gone to several job fairs. No one has ever done that, right? So another idea would be, if you want to work for an agency like Ogilvy, right? Because they're a global advertising and PR agency. Everybody knows who they are. And you know that you want to work in New York or you want to work in Chicago. Why not buy Google ads for people who are looking for Ogilvy, or the president of the company, or the CEO? I guarantee you they'll see it. Okay. And they'll call you. Okay. So again, it depending upon how far you want to go is how far you will go. The farther you go, the more opportunity that you'll see. Okay. So with that, I'm going to conclude my session today, and I'm going to open it up for questions. So give me 1 second while I unmute everybody so that we can have a discussion here. How do I do this? Oh, here we go. Okay. You should all have the ability to talk. Or not. Okay, it looks like you're still muted. Give me a second. How do I do this? There we go. Unmute all. Okay. There we go. Everybody's in the process of being unmuted. So are there any questions or comments? Does anybody want me to dive a little bit deeper in any topic that I discussed? Okay, come on. Don't be shy.
I don't know if anybody else wanted to say something. Okay, if I can go ahead.
Go ahead, Angelica, please.
Okay. So first I want to say thank you, Michael, for coming by and talking to us. You brought up some very good points, and I'm definitely interested in the class you're teaching at SJSU because it was very good ideas, and I have some questions. One thing I want to make a comment about was you mentioning how on LinkedIn, so I've heard a lot in other like speakers who say LinkedIn is definitely where we need to make ourselves present. And, like I go in a few times and I make some likes and maybe some comments sometimes, but how do we make sure that within what we're posting, you said something about our style and our point of view. So how do we make, obviously our own point of view is going to be different from everybody else. It's like we're going to have a unique point of view, but how do we make it in a way that can get other people interested in what we have to say?
I mean, that's a great question. I mean, you're not going to know that until you try it. And so, and the way that LinkedIn algorithm works is if you're interested in, let's say, fashion or music or the intersection of fashion and music, and you write about it, your current network might not care, right? You might not be connected to people that care about that. But I guarantee you, the more that you write about fashion and music, as an example, that people in the industry of fashion and music will see your content and engage with you or connect with you. Because the LinkedIn algorithm works like this. It's based on relevancy. So when you write content that's relevant to different people, and the way that they connect that relevancy is through bio and summaries of people's LinkedIn profile. So if in my LinkedIn profile, I say, I'm interested in music and fashion, and all of a sudden I'm scrolling through my feed and I see a post from you that says, here's why why the intersection of fashion and music is going to dominate in 2021. Well, then I'm going to see that and I'm going to engage with it. So there's a natural relevancy when you are writing about the topics that you care about. That's why I always tell students, what are you passionate about? What do you want to do in your career? And start, even if you don't have it fully vetted or know what you want to do, you already have some perspective on what you like and what you care about, right? You probably read articles, you probably subscribe to people on YouTube, etc. So contextualize that and start thinking about ways to write about it in a very short, sweet, but with style and perspective on LinkedIn. And I guarantee you, people will start connecting with you 100%. It always works. As long as you become repetitive, right? If you post once a month, you're not going to make any progress. If you post every week, like I have my class do, and Jennifer, I know you're on because I see your name. If you want to just quickly talk about the growth that you've seen, or Christine, I know you have too. If you want to talk about the growth that you've seen from when you first started doing this to now, please do so if you're still listening. So, Angelica, did I answer your question?
Yes, you answered my question. Thank you.
All right. Anybody else?
I had a question about long form content. Is it recommended that we create our own blog outside of LinkedIn? Because I have articles that are solely on LinkedIn and I'm wondering if they're discoverable on Google. That's
a great question. Yes, they are discoverable on Google. And so I have a personal blog and I also write on LinkedIn. Now, I don't blog on LinkedIn. I used to. Now I write longer status updates. Those status updates are not indexed in Google. What is indexed in Google are the blogs. So when you first go to LinkedIn and publish an article, that is the blog. When you click post update, that is a status update. There's a difference in that the character count in blogs you can write as long as you want, versus the status update. I don't remember how many characters. If somebody remembers, please tell me. So what I do is I write my blog post on my personal blog. I summarize it on a LinkedIn post and I link to it. Now, the reason why I moved all of my blogs from LinkedIn to my personal blog is because, I mean, not that LinkedIn is going anywhere, but for those of you who remember or old enough, like you remember, like MySpace, was popular. Friendster was popular. There were several other. Yahoo had a social network, and they're all gone. And so if I invest a lot putting my long form content there and something happens, then I lose all of that kind of that mind share. So I don't think LinkedIn's going anywhere, but I wouldn't duplicate the content. The reason why is Google does not like duplicate content. If you have the same exact article on a LinkedIn blog that you put on your personal blog, they're going to say, well, they must be trying to spam and trying to manipulate the search results. So if you want to blog in both places, choose one, but then if you chose your own blog and then you want to continue to write longer form content on LinkedIn, then I would say, okay, maybe rewrite it or summarize it, right? So it's a little bit more work, but it's new content and it links to your blog, which is, links are always good from a search standpoint as well.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Hey, Aubrey, I see that you're on. Can you talk about, I know you also saw a lot of growth in your LinkedIn since the beginning of the semester to now, and I see that you're still keeping it up. Can you just spend like a few minutes just talking about how it went? Just talk about the engagement metrics and kind of what you've experienced to date.
Yeah, of course. So I started off LinkedIn like with, I think, like 250 connections. And yesterday I just reached 500. So that was when I started your class not that long ago. So over the span of a couple months, I gained a lot of connections just because Michael has this post every week. So that, gained a lot of connections from people that I knew, along with like just traction from what I was posting. So a lot of it was marketing. But just in general, like I have a lot of people message me all the time on just like what digital marketing is, like from a student standpoint. And then for like the employer side, I've had so many people reach out to me and ask like, tell me that my profile looks really good and if I'm interested in doing like any of like side work for them, or anything like that. So I can definitely attest and say that taking Michael's class has helped me so much in like building my profile. I had a profile before, but I wasn't active on it at all. And so, yeah, from like, when did we start? August. So we probably started posting in like September. No, wait.
No,
not August.
Wrong
January.
semester.
Wrong semester. January. So we probably started posting in February. Till now, I've like seen a huge like growth rate. My posts that I get about like 1,200 to 1,500 views per post. And it just keeps going up from there. I get a lot of comments now. And people reach out to me, which they weren't doing that before. So it's
That's
just
great.
Helped a lot. Yeah.
And it's repetitive, right? So Aubrey is a grad student, and she has more experience than undergrads, right? Just because of being in school longer. So you may not find your voice or your perspective right away, right? So the great thing is like nobody's going to hold you to anything, right? If you have a perspective one week and you change it the next week, it's okay. Like nobody's going to say, well, they're not going to keep track of what you're thinking and what you're writing. So it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to have a different perspective than everybody others. The point is having one. That's where you're going to see growth, where you're going to see opportunity come.
And for my post too, I think my first one, it took me forever to write. And I was like slacking off every week on it. And my very first post got 1,500 views on it. And I was so freaked out to post it. And I just posted it. And then it got so many views on it. I was freaking out. And I was like, how is this possible? And then like I get like over 500 now for each post that I use from Rita's tips about, I noticed like headlines, the ones that like really killer headlines are the ones that like get over 1,000 views.
Yeah, we talk a lot about, and this is what I highly recommend for everybody on the call is, I work in I do so many presentations. I live in PowerPoint and Excel, and everything that I do, whether it's an email subject line, whether it's a slide, a title on a slide, whether it's a tweet or the first sentence in a LinkedIn update or my blog post or my YouTube videos, I always think in headlines, right? Because that is what is going to get the attention of people. It's Google loves it. And there's an art to it. There's an art and science to it. It takes practice, and you're going to learn what works and what doesn't work, and things change based on who you are and what you care about and your network and things like that. But everything that I do is we think about headlines. And if you think about the attention span of the basic internet user, it's less than 3 seconds, right? So you're scrolling through your feed, and if they don't see a video or a digital asset, or they don't see some words or language that gets them to pause, I call it stopping, the scroll stopping, right? You're scrolling your feed, you stop scrolling and you read what it says and you engage with it. So that takes practice. And so think about that, right? And there's, again, if for those of you who do take my class, we talk about and we break down a headline, what it means to use the right keywords, the action words, all these things. And, the idea of delivering on that headline, right? It's great to write good headlines, but if somebody reads the content and it sucks, well, then what's the point? It's clickbait. But if they read the headlines and they click through to it and it delivers on what your headline represented, then all of a sudden you gain more credibility. So, see, I'm giving away free. You guys don't have to take my class. I'm pretty much gave it away.
No, you still have to take it.
Yeah. Any other questions? I see Deanna. So Deanna, are you there? You were in my class a couple years ago. How are you?
Yeah, hi, I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. See,
I've been thinking a lot about like this stuff. So I was just like interested in like kind of just checking back in and thinking about it again. So
yeah, so Deanna took my class, I think, was it 3 years ago or 2.5 years ago?
it was like 4.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah, it was like 4 years ago.
Well, what's interesting about that, Deanna, is that, when you took with a class, now some of the concepts and the learning has shifted, but it's completely different now. It's because, TikTok wasn't around back then. Snapchat was barely coming to fruition. So that's, again, that's the whole point of, and I'm not trying to market my class, it sounds like it, but you have to keep up to speed and up to date with what's happening in the market, right? So whether it's taking classes or just subscribing to platforms like Marketing Profs or Mashable or DigiDay or Adweek, so that you can continuously learn and be up to speed, because what's going to happen when you go to an interview and say, and the hiring manager says, so what are your thoughts on TikTok? Should we use TikTok for our business? Well, if you haven't thought about it, then you're going to be like, oh, and you're going to like fail. But if you think about stuff like that and you do some homework and you prepare, you go in there and just shout out a couple, buzzwords and, get them salivating and like offering you the job right there. Well, that's going to benefit you. And so keeping up to speed with what's happening in the market is always going to help you. And writing about it, right? Because for me, the way that I keep up to date with changes in the industry is I do videos every week. And that requires me to research and understand what's happening. How can I contextualize it in a voice and tone that matters to me? And that in itself keeps me grounded with, changes in what's happening in the marketplace.
Yeah, and I think I do content marketing now, so I'm also a Zeno alum too. But I do content marketing now, and I'm creating a lot of content. I'm using just the mindset of like making sure you know how to do multiple types of content and thinking about content like holistically and not just like super specific, but like it does require like being able to adapt as the demand for content changes and how that content looks. Like, is it a quick video? Is it a long video? Is it a webinar? Which now we're doing tons of webinars, and our webinar attendance is going up because of it. But my struggle and what I kind of got lazy on is I'm in like B2B tech, like ingredient tech. And like, so it's like I struggled with finding a way to put my voice and like what I'm passionate about into writing. So it's like I need to find my exercise now. Of course, I have more time on my hands, is trying to figure out a way to bridge like the content creation that I'm doing in my tech job with like my interests in a way that people can take something away from. Yeah. So that's kind of why I wanted to like check in and like kind of think about it as like, and I have like some ideas for like link or for blogs or wherever I choose to put them just from like attending this little session. So cool. I'm trying to like keep up,
Well, that's great, Deanna. And so that's a great example of, Deanna's been in the job market for several years now, and it doesn't come easy, right? You're always struggling, trying to find the next thing and finding your right voice. And I do that. I'm always trying new things. For those of you who use Twitter, I still use Twitter. It's the younger generation, Gen Z doesn't use Twitter much, but the older generations do. It's still alive and well. There's still a lot. It's not just news sharing and, sports and things like that. There's a lot of opportunity in technology and IoT, artificial intelligence, that is, it's booming on Twitter. And so Twitter has these things called threads, right? And it's the ability to tell longer form stories in a tweet. So imagine, and it's just like LinkedIn. LinkedIn before you can only put, maybe 200 or so characters or 300 characters. Now it's like 700 or 800 characters, which you can't write a whole article or essay and you don't want to, but you have the ability to explain yourself, right? And use bullet points and elaborate on certain topics. And so, I would highly recommend that you just go out and try things, right? Nobody's gonna judge you. And even if they do, just don't worry about it, right? There's always trolls out there, and you'll encounter them a lot, but don't let that discourage you. You got to keep pushing, because again, nothing is going to get handed to you, right? If I get 5 emails from 5 candidates and they all say the same thing, well, then it's like a coin toss. Who should I call? But if you do something unexpected, do video or do a TikTok, I don't know, maybe that would work, but do something to get the attention of a hiring manager. That is the unexpected opportunity, and that's what's going to help you stand out from others. All right, Zoe, I'm just going to call on you. Do you have any questions? Just because you're on video.
I feel like a good question to phrase in my head, because I've been listening this whole time and I really enjoyed it. One of my thoughts, though, where I run the social media for PRSSA now, so I looked at your website, and what are your thoughts on kind of having like your own website for personal branding? Because I've started to notice just from like being on LinkedIn that a lot of people do have that with like samples of their work, but I don't know how much people are actually like looking at those kinds of things.
Yeah. So I do that. I have a blog, and the reasoning for my blog has changed. I've had it for over 12 years, 13, closer to 15 years. So before, it used to be one purpose and now it's a different purpose. What I use my blog for now, well, okay, let me rewind. So in January, I started these videos on YouTube, and I record a video. It's a 6-minute video, and I put it on YouTube, and then I post the native video on LinkedIn. So I don't link to my YouTube channel. I just use my YouTube channel for a different reason, because then I go to my blog, I embed the video, and I annotate everything that I say in my video on my blog. And it takes forever. It kind of sucks. I literally type out my video. It's about 1,000 words, and I put it on my blog. Okay. And I just leave it there. And I looked the other 3 weeks ago, and my traffic has gone like this. And it's all from organic search, Google, because, and that's how I just use it for visibility. All of my thought leadership is done on video, and it is, uploaded to YouTube so that I can embed it into my blog. But then I take that same video and I upload it directly to LinkedIn, and that's where the engagement happens. So I have engagement on LinkedIn. I don't have my comments turned on my blog. I don't have comments turned on YouTube. I don't have time to go engage with people there. I just use that for that reason. But then I use LinkedIn and Twitter as my engagement opportunities. If that makes any sense. So blogs are great. Personal blogs are great. It's great for your, branding your name. Unless of course you're John Smith, then you're gonna have a hard time. But it's great to, again, if you're a graphic designer or, and you may not even need your own blog to do that. You can, there's platforms out there like Adobe. I can't remember the name of that, what Adobe has, where you can upload PDFs and you can do all kinds of, build your stuff like that. So that's what I do. And I would say, if you want to do it, I highly recommend you do it. It costs money, right? You have to buy a domain name. You have to pay for hosting, which is, a couple $100s a year.
I have mine on Adobe Spark.
I've seen
Adobe
some
Spark,
good ones
right.
on there.
Yeah.
Spark is cool.
So cool. Well, I guess that's it, right? Christina, are we done?
Yeah, if no one has any more questions.
Right. Hey guys, thank you so much for taking your time today to meet with me and talk with me. And if you do go to San Jose State, please take my class. I enjoy interacting with students and just watching their journey. I have one student named Marco Negretti. I always talk about him a lot because he's one of my favorite students, because he's someone that I think I might work for someday. And right now he works for Nike. He's like a content marketing manager for Nike, but specifically working on the Jordan brand. And that's been his lifelong dream. Like, he's a huge sneaker guy, loves, the Bulls. And so watching just his career go from working at Twitter to then working at a magazine in New York, then moving to Portland and working at Nike, I like to see that. And I see that with Deanna, you and I almost crossed paths at Zeno Group. But please take my class. If not, I'm happy to, if you want to have a one-on-one session, if I can fit you in during the week or in the evening, happy to give you some feedback. If you want me to take a look at your LinkedIn profile, I just try to make myself available. So with that said, thank you so much for your time. And I guess I'll see you next time.